Welcome to the You Go First podcast. This is the place where we bring together thought leaders, business pioneers, personal development gurus, and just about any person we discover that will inspire and compel you to go first in all areas of your life. Please welcome keynote speaker, philanthropist, and the official head dream chaser for Odyssey Teams, Inc., our host, Lane Hensley.
All right, you go first.
You go.
You go first, Mari.
Hey, Lane, you go first.
Okay, so my guest today, and I'll tell you a little about her, is a dear old friend, Mari Ruddy. And let me tell you, she is just a light in some very dark places. I know some of your personal story with some sexual abuse as a child and getting through that. And then, figuring out how to live as a type 1 diabetic and thrive and be out there. And then, bam, cancer hits you, you have breast cancer. And then I know that came back again. And even I know your first bout of cancer, you were really active in cure programs and, walks and runs and getting very active. So it was fun to see the way you parlayed your cancer experience into just diving deeper into helping people around the world deal with stuff. And I know you got a book coming out. So Mari's got a book coming out called Extreme Healing, which is super exciting. And we may talk a little about running and all that stuff, but the goal is that we get to what in the world keeps Mari going, because you definitely go first in lots of places. And I hope this episode will inspire people who see themselves in you and are trying to figure out how to just get out of bed and sort of function, much less, meet some people and go for a 100-mile bike ride. So without further ado, the wonderful Mari Ruddy, thanks for being on the show. How are you doing today?
Oh, Lane, it is so fantastic to see you again and to be here on this platform with you and live, make this happen. I remember vividly the day we met with all of my high school students with me, and we were going to do a ropes course. Mm-hmm. And I was like, these people are incredible. Wow. And you've stayed with me all these years. So it's wonderful to be back with you. Yay.
Woo, the hair is standing up on my neck. So here's the challenge. I'm going to want to know, hey, what have been the high points? What did you learn from those points, and what are some of the low points, and what are the things that the hardest runs, or when you're facing cancer and things like that? So in the spirit of you go first, where did you get stopped since I've seen you, and how did you get yourself moving again and start going first?
Yeah, well, this is a great question, and my life journey has definitely been a bit of a roller coaster, and I've had a lot of wonderful highs and opportunities, and then just like diabetes, then I tank, and it's been a rough go. And the thing that really has sustained me as an adult person is getting back in my body. And ironically, doing the ropes courses actually was part of that, because I have a huge fear of heights, as you might recall. And I remember taking a class with you guys about becoming a high ropes facilitator, which meant I had to go high up and tie a bunch of ropes, in the air and not be overwhelmed by how physically my body was shaking.
Well, I was going to say, not only are you're bringing back memories of you as a person bringing a group to our ropes course. We used to do ropes courses at Odyssey. And if you don't know what that is, that meant, climbing up a pole 30 feet high and standing on top and letting go with your arms and, really putting people in this laboratory. But you're in this laboratory of running and biking and swimming and speaking and, leading and all this stuff. But like I said, Mari didn't just overcome the fear on the day of the ropes course. She comes to me I want to learn how to lead this. And so I'm going to, that's just your attitude. So when did you start getting that attitude? This really scares me, so I'm going to do it more. This is really hard for me, so I'm going to do it more. Why? What do you do? Why are you like that?
Well, I believe in astrology. So I do actually know that my sort of path in life is to face the fears and befriend the fears. And so that requires a lot of internal courage to just show up. And one of the things that I learned early was meditation. So I started following Jack Kornfield and I started doing holotropic breath work, which is actually in Northern California. And Stan Groff, who is one of the first people to bring psychedelic processes to the United States. And he was one of my teachers also. And learning that when you become aware internally of what's happening, which mindfulness does, as you know, it slows down and creates a witness internally. And when you have a little bit of space internally, you can look at yourself and really examine, okay, where is this fear coming from? And why does it paralyze me? And how can I embrace this fear instead of running away from it? And learn from the fear?
But most people, you don't know this, they feel something like that, they want to move away from it. They put their blinders on and just go, I'm going to get through this. And what is there a mantra you go to? Is it just you breathe? Do you have like best people in your life that reach out and go, Mari, how come you're not at the run today? What's wrong? What, you okay? Or are driving you to cancer treatments, or like how, help people, because people are stuck, in post-COVID world, and we don't always move toward those things. So why? What? How?
This is a really good question, and there's kind of a little theme in my life about one of the things I learned early that I see help a lot of people is it's again this concept of slowing down. Go slow to go fast, and exactly, and breathing. I mean, it's kind of, again, reminds me of when I worked with teenagers. It's like, we're going to really slow it down, and we're going to get clear about the vision that we have and where we ultimately want to go. And let's slow it down so we can clearly see it. So then we can take the steps necessary. And that is really kind of how I do it. And it took me a really, really long time to actually believe that other people noticed me and other people valued me. And it wasn't until I attempted suicide for the second time as an adult and realized that I didn't die, and that despite quite a serious attempt to die, and that I wanted to live. And in choosing to live, I had to accept that people really did notice me and that they really did value me. And it was a little bit of like shifting my awareness of how much I valued other people and how much I gave to other people to begin to actually receive that. And that was, it took 2 rounds of cancer and lots of people helping me and taking care of me. I still didn't really get it, that people cared about me. And when, after the second suicide attempt, which was in 2013, when I didn't die, and I came back from being in a 5-day coma, and I had massive brain damage, and they thought I would never speak, and they thought that I wouldn't ever be able to live by myself, not in a facility, essentially. And how I did it, how I survived, and what caused my brain to heal was in the psychiatric ward. I meditated 6 hours a day.
Wow. Okay. So I'm a little like I said in the beginning, we haven't talked in almost 20 years.
Right.
I've put comments in your social media, so it's pretty heartbreaking to hear that you were at a point like that, and maybe I wasn't around to like be part of that support for you. Like, what did you do? How did you try to kill yourself? And the biggest one was like before, like, I think I remember you talking about this when we were at the ropes course thing. Like, one attempt was when you were young, right?
Well, so if we count those, it was 3.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I grew up in a family that was not connected, and that I was not connected to either my mother or my father. So I did not ever get mirrored by my parents. And I never had a sense of being connected.
Yeah.
And so I really struggled with belonging my entire life. So one of the ways I kind of hid that I felt like I didn't belong is that I created programs where it was all about belonging.
As a leader, you would lead those programs?
And I totally led all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because somebody asked at Odyssey, they're like, what are you really in the business of? And after thinking of that, I think it was Scott Greenberg, actually a mutual friend. And I thought, we're really in the connection business above all else, whether it's to their company, to their family, to themselves. So if that's the root of the root, like the level of connection you feel to anything, self, organization, the world. And so if you felt that disconnected, now, for our listeners, they're like, you're an extreme athlete, you just wrote this book, you're out there speaking, and now we're hearing like you felt so disconnected and so unseen that you tried to kill yourself.
Right.
How do we get from point A to point B?
Well, a lot of it had to do, I'm the oldest child in my family, and my dad had diabetes and he almost died annually. So I grew up projecting the image of being totally okay. And I got really good at projecting that image of being totally okay. Now, thankfully, I don't actually suffer from depression. So the suicide attempt was really PTSD, which is much more similar to soldiers who come back from a war and have PTSD, but don't have depression necessarily. So they're actually kind of a different.
Interesting.
I know, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm totally fascinated by suicide as why people, and we have a rising epidemic of it. So I took a combination of sleeping pills and excessive amounts of insulin.
Oh, wow. So as a diabetic, you're like, I'll just like take it up to 11.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I took,
Who found you? You're home alone doing this? And then
no. I mean, because if I took my cell phone, they would find me through my cell phone. So I left my cell phone at my apartment. I arranged for my dog to be taken care of. And I sent some messages to people who might look for me, just saying, hey, I'm going to be out of town. Or I didn't even know what I said. And I got in my car, which was rather dangerous, but I didn't care because I was on my way out. And I drove, apparently, I don't remember driving there. And I was in my car in June for 3 days. And some man was running by and saw my car in the morning. And then at the afternoon, he walked by and saw my car still there. And I had I was laying down in the front seat. So you couldn't see me in the car.
Just out in some park somewhere or something?
Yeah, it was like out in the suburb.
Now, were you a runner before this?
I've been a runner.
Was this like the intro to running? Okay, so you'd been, okay.
No,
okay.
I wasn't running. I was just in the car, and this guy ran by and saw the car, and then he looked in the car and saw me laying down, and he immediately called the police.
It was a knock, and you're like,
I didn't respond. So he called the police, and the police came, and then they took me to the hospital. So and then once I got to the hospital, I was in the coma for like 2 or 3 more days. And they did all these tests to make sure I wasn't on some kind of weird drug, and I wasn't. So it took me quite a while to come out of it. So that took a little while.
And
so
do you know this person still? Do you stay in touch with?
No, I've never met him.
No way. Oh my God.
No idea.
Okay, so an angel comes along and saves you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you recover from this, and then of course a couple of bouts of cancer and all these things. And I know you do speaking. You talk to high school students and all kinds of educators and anybody who will, listen to the Mari Ruddy story and like your tools for success. What are some of your tools?
So like in the book that I just finished, one of the things that I talk a lot about that I didn't understand right away, and it has to do with the stages of grief related to getting a chronic health condition. And it's the nature that or it's the idea that we go through different stages at different rates, at different, and we might not go through all of them. But understanding that there's stages, and that, like, I negotiated and bargained quite a bit when I had cancer and when I was initially diagnosed with diabetes, and at different points along my 42-year diabetes career. Like, okay, do I still have diabetes? I still
like negotiating with yourself, you're saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like, and negotiating with God, with the universe, and sort of understanding that acceptance is possibly the goal, but that the cycle of grief is real, and that we go through it. And if we have the ability to understand when we get a horrible diagnosis, that we will go through a number of emotions and we will go through stages, and that's actually normal, is very empowering. So that's one of the tools that I use. And then the other one is motivational interviewing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No, what's that?
It's used by dietitians, and it has to do with figuring out where a person is in the stages of change, and that what depending on what stage you're in, you need different tools. So it's pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance. And when you have a new diagnosis or a new awareness of who you are as a person, you will go through these stages of change at different rates and paces, and you need different things to get you motivated. So for me, understanding that has been very empowering, because it's like, oh, I am not ready to change. I am in pre-contemplation. Oh, notice that. How can I get myself to contemplation? What's it going to take for me to get enough information or enough reassurance to move into action? Because if you're in pre-contemplation, you're not in action.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like you said something like, I think one of the biggest difficult things for people is normal looks like what they see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Like normal is like, we went on vacation, your life is great, I had cancer, but look at me now, and normal isn't like, I'm just contemplating, I'm not taking any action yet. So I don't beat myself up over that. I don't go, oh, I'm a bad person and I'm so lazy. I go, hey, I'm in a phase that's normal, as long as I'm building this phase to then build something else on top of. Exactly. And continue some kind of cycle. Keep going. So pre-contemplation, then what else?
So the stages of change. So it's like understanding the stages of grief and understanding the stages of change in terms of behavior, and then also, I'm mildly obsessed with intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, and realizing, because they play together. And again, the more awareness a person who has, so my book is intended for people who have a chronic health condition and want to get active, but don't really know how to. And it could be a chronic health condition. It could also be excessive weight gain, or just being obese, or someone dealing with aging, because growing older isn't
that all of us? Okay, good.
Well, and it's really hard.
That's good. No, I love it.
Yeah, because it's like the older you get, the harder it is to get active. Yeah, so kind of weaving that all together to be able to then take action, and to then move into a stage of maintaining that action. So those are the tools I use. And
maintaining that action, is it an intrinsic kind of maintenance to maintain the action, like that's where your running coach comes in? That's where you're getting up and meeting a group. I saw one of your podcasts with a 72-year-old, I think it was like runner of the year, who was like Mr. Motivator, like that's
Mike,
external and internal motivation.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And it's the kind of the both of them. So the internal is the joy. The internal is the delight that you experience as a result. But then the extrinsic is signing up for an actual race. and signing up for a run group or a biking group or, a HIIT class at the Y or wherever, so that you have a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic. Yeah. Because extrinsic is having an external motivation to get you there.
Well, same formula. Obviously, it's like my show isn't about, becoming a extreme athlete and those things. But like I said when we talked before, it was just like life is an extreme, sport. Like it's not a sprint. This is a slog. It's a long one. And these tools are the same whether you're changing a job, moving to a new city, starting a relationship, ending a relationship, performing well at work, just getting up in the morning and cleaning up your home if you're living in an environment that isn't healthy, or whether it's taking care of your diabetes so this tool is critical. Give us more of your secret sauce to get yourself moving. And the Spirit You Go First is about when someone's stuck, and we look outside of us, like somebody needs to come and rescue me. And that's great if you have those people in your life, but if they're knocking on the door and you don't answer, then there's nothing happens next.
Well, this is interesting. Yesterday at the gym, so I'm now I'm going to run my second marathon in June of this year. And I ran my first one 13 years ago. So, just every 13 years, I'll do a marathon.
Perfect.
And she said, how do you keep showing up? She said, we were doing intervals a couple days earlier. And she said, the harder we were running, I noticed that I kept telling myself that I was really slow and that this hurt and I should really just stop instead of keep going. She said, what do you do? And I thought that was kind of interesting because I have figured out for the most part over the last 10 years how to stop that negative voice. And instead of like beating it up, like I said with the fear, is I invite it in and I say, why are you being so negative right now? And it's essentially the concept, I talk about this in my book too, about reframing. How do you reframe an experience? And what tools do you use? I mean, at different times I've worn a rubber band on my wrist. And every time I notice I'm having a negative thought, I'll snap the rubber band on my wrist. So it's a little sting, but nothing major. And then it's like, and it's a kinesthetic reminder that that's not the thoughts that move me forward. And again, it's like looking at the negative thought and saying, hey, wait a minute, I want to reframe this. Here I am running these intervals and look at all these people around me who I really like. And we're laughing during the time we're not running. We're cheering each other on. People are applauding each other. Notice that some of the time they're applauding for me. Oh, wow. Okay, that's kind of fun. Oh, this is actually really fun. I'm actually having a really good time. I'm going to run faster.
Yeah.
So that's part of again, a tool of how do you catch yourself when you're having those negative conversations. And it's also focusing on what you can do. I mean, I don't eat gluten. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat meat. I don't eat processed food. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. It's like, and people hear that and they go, do you do anything fun?
But those are personal disciplines that you're putting on yourself. And that's really, and it's not the Mari that I know isn't like where somebody would walk up and go, oh, she's a world-class athlete for sure. Like, I mean this in the, nobody looks at me like, oh, well, it's easy for you because you're just built like a runner. You just like look like you ran on day one. You're just practicing very, very, extraordinary behaviors. And not only are you putting yourself where you're doing these runs and stuff, but then things totally outside of your control, cancer, diabetes, and I know the abuse wasn't from your parents, but somebody related or connected with your family that just like all of a sudden is in your life and bang, making these life-altering sort of imprints on how you see yourself. And one of the most powerful things about running or pushing yourself in any place in your life is you run smack into yourself at some point, or your beliefs you have about yourself and what you're capable of.
Right. Right.
And you're so far beyond those things. I think you have every excuse to not be how you are.
Yeah.
So what calls you to what's next? Like, okay, so we're doing another marathon, of course, every 13 years. And we've got the book coming out that's gnawing at you for, I think, 10 plus years, maybe probably way before. You keep pushing. What's your formula for people that need to push and not to do a marathon maybe, or to write a book, but just, reconnect with a family member that they have no relationship with, or when something calls to them, how should they answer?
Well, this is a good question. I mean, one of the things that I do believe is that each of us has an inner healer. So that inside every single human being is an inner healer. And that inner healer is incredibly wise. And some of us as children learn how to tune into that, and some of us don't learn. But the thing is that, learning is generative, and, we can always learn something new at any age, at any point in our life. And we just have to turn and look at it. And so as people tune into their inner healer, the right mantras or the right insights will emerge, and they do exist inside of everyone. And for me, the big one that was incredibly transformative, and I adopted it pretty early, I think it was 2003 or 4, and it was the mantra of I am an athlete. And it's that simple. And it was like, well, if I'm going to be an athlete, I may as well be an Olympic level athlete. Why not?
Yeah.
And ironically, I hung out with 2 different Olympic athletes, and I observed their behavior, and they measured things. They paid attention to how much they slept. They paid attention to what they ate. They paid attention to all the things in their lives. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And I could do that because I'm an athlete, not because I'm a person with diabetes, not because I'm a person who's had cancer twice, not because I'm a person who has PTSD and has lived through all this trauma. I can do it because I'm an athlete. And it's that frame.
Well, you're nailing something. I love to talk, the beliefs. How you answer I am questions. But to adopt an I am question before there's evidence to support that. Not that you weren't athletic maybe before that, but, I am good with technology. It's just, I am forgiving, I am able to be flexible, I am, like you said, but some people don't see that chicken and egg thing. They think the athletic performance has to come before the belief. And, how do you, I think what you're nailing, and some of what you're saying is kind of like Northern California, wowie zowie. I must have been in a yurt with a shaman to realize, and you're teaching in universities and you're a principal. I hope people are seeing this isn't just mythology and you have to be some kind of Zen garden, tender to just breathe, stop, slow down, put some space between whatever's going on in your world and catching yourself being yourself and thinking, what's the belief I have and what's the action, and being normal. But the internet and social media and TikTok and everything's going a million miles an hour and it's pulling us into this faster phase. And there's no evidence that that's better for us. Any sort of, I like hearing the things you don't do or things you do that people can adopt if they're courageous enough to put discipline on themselves. So any other tips and tricks in Mari's world that people can adopt?
Well, I mean, one of the things that's probably the one that's come most recently is the idea that we really are pack animals and that we cannot do things alone. We just can't. I mean, it is first looking within yourself and finding your own courage and finding, discovering and being clear about your own beliefs, which meditation and reading and learning all do. or help with. But the next thing is you've got to find your people, and that all of us have people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard as you get older to find people, and it's not impossible. And given this world, it's easier. You can find people, the Meetup app is fantastic, or just go to your local bike shop or go to your local run shop, and they almost all have organized bike rides or organized runs of all different paces. I mean, I'm the 12-minute mile pace leader.
Okay, good. You're giving people an understanding of like, it's not, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. Like, find some people, set a pace you can sustain that's right for you, and just keep moving.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And find those people. And that's what's really made a difference in my life. Like, I finally have a deep circle of good friends that I didn't really ever have until the last probably 9 years.
Well, you said something earlier about really feeling like you're worthy of that network. And I always say, water seeks its own level, and like, you are seeking those people. And I want to just say, I think you're saying, don't find 10 motivating people. Don't find 10 runners. Find a few runner people, a few people that ground you in your spirituality, a few people that can help you hang a picture in your house, or do some, like, you need this mosaic of diverse people that feed different parts of what you need. I know I feel blessed to have that in my life as well. But knowing that you deserve that, and then seeking that out, like the you go first is like, go first to go find them and engage them and let them know you need them in your life and try to bring something to them. Yeah. This is not enough time for me at all. So I know doing the show was kind of a great excuse to go, oh my gosh, Mari, you finally got the book out. I knew it was coming. And when is it released?
Well, I'm working with someone from the Link Crew program.
Oh, great. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
sure.
his name is Azul Terronez.
Okay.
He's someone you might want to talk to. He's amazing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and so Azul and his partner, they have a book publishing company, and we're working together. And I just got done with the first developmental edit, and it was amazing. And with my fingers crossed, I'm hoping that it will be out by October.
Okay, awesome.
Might be a little earlier, but for sure by then, because there's a paper shortage apparently.
Okay, sure. Another another hurdle to get over. Well, like I said, I hope that this show, for people, if they're just like, who's Mari Ruddy, and they somehow now are watching because of me or what I've done, and go, my job is to try to help people find their people. And I hope that you are a person that they can lean to or listen to, or have come in and speak to their school group or their faculty or whoever, because your story is just so compelling, any part of it, and that it's just getting going in some ways. I know you're active with, I think, Team Wild. I know you were part of like that, and some other, basically Race for Cures and things like that. So whether it's related to cancer or diabetes or education or motivation or mindfulness, you are just like the Swiss Army knife of lessons. But you've done it to yourself. You just keep getting the most out of all these hurdles that keep coming your way, and you embrace them with such an attitude of gratitude that, okay, cool, what am I going to learn from this one to prepare you for the next one? Because life is an endurance sport, and you're signing up for the race just by being here. I'm so thankful that you are here, friend to friend.
Well, thank you.
That runner came by and took some action.
That was pretty lucky.
It's very lucky for all of us, and for you, of course. But to everyone, I hope that you see this as the beginning of a real inspiration of someone who I know has overcome so much, and I know you have so much more ahead of you. I'm so thankful for you to be in my life, whether you know it or not. I've been inspired by you, following you, and I'm so thankful to get to share you with our guests. So,
well, thank you. It's been a joy to be here. And
with that,
people can reach out and I will respond.
Yeah, I know you will. And we're going to put pictures of you running. And if you're listening to us on one of the podcast platforms, please catch Mari on our YouTube channel and you'll get to see her in person, her bright, shining spirit that she just brings everywhere she goes. So Mari, congratulations for everything you've accomplished. I am such a fan of yours and I'm so thankful that you're here with us on You Go First, and hope to talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to another episode of You Go First. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to listen to another episode, you can find us at yougofirst.live, or you can see more about our host, Lane Hensley, on his Instagram at OneDreamChaser. To learn more about his company, Odyssey Teams Inc., go to odysseyteams.com or follow all their social media channels at Odyssey Teams. Thanks again, and we hope that you will go first to share our podcast with a friend or colleague. Now, you go first.